I was wondering if you could maybe help us bust another myth.
So my TikTok account is shot through the roof at the moment because I'm shooting down various wellness marketing things. And one of the ones that's everywhere you look at the moment is the use of continuous glucose monitors, because that's going to be the answer to all of your problems, is seeing how your blood glucose responds to different things that you eat, and then matching it with an app so that you can see exactly what kind of foods you need to eat. And really, the main finding of my research is that anything that involves a lot of effort or ongoing cost, for some people, cost is prohibitive, right? So, but effort is the same with everybody. If it requires ongoing effort, most people drop out. So by doing those kind of approaches and getting all this data and all the different, now I can have spinach, but my wife can't eat spinach, so we've got to cook separate meals now, or my husband can have this, or my kid can have that. And it's unnecessary. We know what we need to be eating. We need to be eating lots of fruits and vegetables, fish, if you're not vegan and vegetarian, healthy meat, if you're going to do meat, plenty of water, and moderate alcohol, not excessive alcohol.
Welcome back to the Charlene Giselle Show. Today, I am delighted to introduce you to Dr. Julia Jones. Dr. Julia Jones is a neuroscientist and former Olympic psychologist and author. Dr. Julia Jones, welcome to the Charlene Giselle Show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Can't wait to get stuck into some topics.
Great to have you. It was only a week ago that we saw each other live in person at a TEDx event where I had the honor of quoting your incredible work on the benefit of breathwork and its impact on our health.
Yeah, your superb delivery, seamlessly delivered, very professional. It was really good. It was a great day as well. All the talks were brilliant, weren't they?
Yes, they were. Well, it was really an honor to be able to quote your remarkable work, and I'm really grateful. Well, I was wondering if we could start off by introducing our audience to your line of work. How did you become a neuroscientist and a former Olympic psychologist and author? Tell us more.
Well, it started quite a long time ago. Possibly before some people listening to this were even born, in the early 90s. And I was a sport and exercise science undergraduate. And I was on an exchange trip to California. And while I was there, I got invited to visit a US Navy SEALs base. And the PT, the physical training instructors there, showed me how they were using music as a biohack to reduce anxiety in high-pressure situations, to increase exercise endurance, boost motivation, confidence, sleep, all of that. And I was in a band in university and DJing. And so when I saw this use of music, it really fascinated me. And when I graduated, I did my master's thesis on the effects of music on exercise endurance. And that was published in the Journal of Sports Sciences, and led to me working with the British Olympic teams. And ever since then, I've kind of been in this space, looking at music as a tool, not just music, but that's why I got my nickname, Dr. Rock, because I've been looking at this for so long and encouraging people to think of music in a different way across everything. And we'll touch on that when we talk about breathwork and all kinds of things.
And what is your connection between working with sports team, but also working with leading organization? We met through an investment bank that we both connected with. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how your work and all your understanding of music and the brain and breath work can also translate into the world of leading organizations.
Well, so I did a lot of work from the 90s in elite sport, and I still work in elite sport. But when you're looking at elite business, it's a very, very similar mind frame, mindset, very similar challenges. And although obviously the physical component is different, there still is a physical foundation that's required for cognitive functioning at a high level across a prolonged period. So there are very there's a lot of crossover, and there's not a massive amount different that I deliver, whether it's for elite sport or elite corporations, and even not at the leadership level, anywhere within a corporation. The pressures of work now and the pressures of life are so intense constantly that having that kind of performance mindset is a real advantage to people. And so most of my work is about teaching people how this ancient evolutionary biology works in the brain and body, and then understanding how to use these hacks to help it operate in this weird modern world that we've invented, that we don't want to leave. We want to live in it, but we want to live in it without it damaging our health. So that's really my focus now, and my books are all about that sort of journey that I've been on in the last 5 years, which we'll talk about. Do you want me to talk about that now? What
I would love, yes, please do.
Okay, so my PhD looked at the lifelong effect of music memories from youth. And that resulted in me working on an NHS dementia strategy, using music for quality of care and things like that in dementia, not just for those living with dementia, but all of them, the carers, the NHS staff, all of that. And music definitely is a very, very effective tool right the way up through late stage dementia. But I started wondering why we're getting these increases in dementia cases, looking at the risk factors, seeing that a lot of the risk factors are similar across many of the chronic diseases that we're suffering from, very lifestyle driven. And so as a sport and exercise scientist originally, I started just, becoming a bit distraught that everything that we thought was going to be the solution clearly isn't the solution. And I started a 5-year research project in 2018 where I began analysing the diet and fitness industry revenues. So over 50 years, the diet and fitness sector revenues grew and grew and grew over 50 years. Then across the same 50 years, I plotted average waistline size, which also grew over 50 years. And then across the same 50-year timeline, I plotted the rise in chronic physical and mental health statistics, which also rose. So as the diet and fitness sector has increased over 50 years, the scale of the health crisis has increased. So diet and fitness aren't the solution that we thought they were. So I went back to school, went back to King's, to the Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology and Neuroscience, did applied neuroscience and mental health. That opened up the gut-brain axis to me. So I then went and studied nutrition science with Professor Chris Gardner, Stanford University. That opened up the whole genetic aspect, which I became fascinated in. Last year, I did a summer course with Professor Giles Yeo, the obesity genetics specialist at Cambridge, to really understand all these things around the GLP-1s now and obesity, and really starting to see that all the things that we had been saying for generations haven't worked for a reason. It's very much because of our evolutionary biology. And we've inherited this stuff that's evolved over millions of years. It's not going to change. And a lot of the advice that we're giving people simply doesn't align with that evolutionary biology. So most people have to force themselves to go to the gym because we don't really have the reward circuits that drove that behavior, because we got activity automatically through searching for food, searching for other humans to reproduce with. You didn't need dopamine reward circuits for going to the gym. And constricting food, really goes against our ancient evolutionary biology. So all of those things don't work. And that's where I then landed on other, low effort. It has to be low effort to be able to be sustained for a lifetime. And so that's become my thing now. I'm out there myth busting and irritating the fitness industry by pointing out all of these statistics.
What are the biggest challenges that you're seeing, either in terms of physical health decline or mental health decline?
The key pain points are stress, sleep, and weight. In pretty much every case, it's one or more of those three, and they all interplay. So if you're struggling with sleep, it's likely to also be impacting your eating, your nutritional habits, and your alcohol intake. Same with stress. If you're stressed, it impacts your sleep. If you're tired, you're more stressed. It's, you really have to get a grip of that triangle of the foundation of getting on top of those. And the evolutionary circuits that underpin those are the circadian system for sleep, the autonomic nervous system for stress, and then also the gut-brain axis. And looking at how taking better care of your gut microbiome can also, determine how the circadian system is operating, not in terms of the mechanics of it, because it's very much driven by natural daylight. It receives its signals from the sun through the cells at the back of the retina, back of the eye. But all of these things are interconnected. And honestly, almost everyone I meet, and this includes all of the health and wellness experts, many people, their knowledge is so out of date, and the training curriculums are equally out of date. They haven't dramatically changed. So although the fitness protocols sit in very established science, if you do these fitness protocols, you increase your cardiovascular capacity, all of these benefits are real. But if you can't maintain that behavior, then they don't change your future health outcome. Just doing a little bit of something and then dropping out, and then doing a little bit of something else and then dropping out. It's your daily habits that are determining how you're aging. So it's been a real eye-opener for me, and looking at how people are suffering and why they're suffering, and really how easy it is to pinpoint and target those systems with a few very, very simple hacks. Then I think the biggest challenge we've got is education. And in the corporate space, finally, my last breath on this, in the corporate space, it's interesting to see that after COVID, they ramped up their wellness, the employee wellness, which is understandable, right? Great. But many, many employers, because we have been brainwashed into this diet and fitness approach for generations, the people they have appointed to build these wellness programs are the people who are in the world that didn't work, right? So when I'm taking this science to people who have built this huge fitness offer for their employees, or they've built a corporate gym at great expense that no one goes to, and all of these things, it's very hard, because what I'm saying is kind of pointing out that what they're telling people to do is behavior that can't be sustained by most people. So there's a resistance to bring what I'm talking about in, because it contradicts what they've been building as the wellness lead.
Could we perhaps talk a little bit about those behaviors, and specifically as it pertains to stress habits, sleep habits, and weight management habits?
Yeah, so my research, I did so many pilot testing with employers and NHS groups, and asking people, so teaching people the science, so the basic wiring, showing them the basic wiring. This is how the cells at the back of the eye are wired to these neurons, and they inhibit the release of melatonin from the pineal gland. A simple kind of biology lesson so that people have a basic understanding of these key circuits. And then encouraging them to do one small thing. I mean, originally I was getting people to do 25, 30 hacks to see which ones would sustain. But the three that kept coming up, a year later, a year and a half later, even now 2 years later for some groups, and I'm still, I know that for many people, they're still maintaining one or more of these three hacks. And they are, drum roll, please. Build the suspense.
Breathwork.
So for the circadian system, it's going out and getting early daylight, because we, evolved in a world where we woke up when the sun rose and we slept when the sun went down. So the brain needs that blue light signal from the sun, that natural light signal from the sun in the morning, to start that timer circuitry, so that melatonin is released later in the evening. And obviously, it's also critical to not disrupt that ancient system by then shining fake blue light into your eyes through screens, things like that, which I know, many professionals really struggle with that when you're working long hours and using screens. But there are things like blue light blocker glasses and blue light filters, things like that, to try and combat that effect. And not everyone is hugely affected by it. It depends on a genetic level how sensitive you are to these things. So But that is how the circuit works. So get early daylight if you can. Then with the autonomic nervous system, breathing, one of your favourite super tools, the simple breath, because the way that the autonomic nervous system is wired, when we breathe in, the sympathetic branch is activated. When we breathe out, the parasympathetic branch is activated. But if you can slow your breath down to resonance frequency rate, so 6 breaths per minute for most people, and an extended exhale if possible, then you're amplifying the effect and really retraining that system to be in parasympathetic mode as the dominant mode in a world where we are triggered constantly. The sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated at a low grade level constantly because of the weird stuff that confuses it, busy inboxes, deadlines, stressful calls with clients, or commuting, everything, different lights, sounds. It's hyper stimulated. So breath work for the autonomic nervous system. And then with the gut brain axis, it's really trying to think about nurturing our gut health. So not eating across a prolonged eating window, so trying to shorten that window to less than 12 hours so that you're not always in digestion mode. There is an element of fasting going on there, and there are cellular pathways that are activated when nutrients are not sensed, when there's a decreased nutrient sensing activation. So when the food that you've eaten has been metabolized, there are other pathways in the cell that need to be activated for those cells to remain in healthy operation. It's like in the day, the workers are in the office in the day, and then when the workers go home, the night workers come in and tidy the office and put the office back in clean working order, ready for the day workers to come back and do their job. We need to ensure that happens. And many people are getting up as soon as their eyes open, breakfast, and then eating throughout the day, often late dinner, client dinners. Some people are eating across a 16 to 18 hour eating window, which means that you're never entering a fasted state ever. You're always metabolizing food. It's just not how we evolved. We didn't have that much access to food. So thinking about probiotics to boost gut diversity, lots of plants, many, 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 many diverse types of fruits, nuts, seeds, vegetables, legumes. Just thinking about how we used to live and aligning ourselves with that. So it's very natural. But the beauty of it is that once you've kind of made those little tweaks, and you're only tweaking existing habits. So you're not having to, let's build a new habit that involves going somewhere and doing this time so many times a week. You already get up and go out every day. So you're just going out slightly different time if you're trying to go out earlier. You're already eating. You're just trying to eat at a different time. And you're already breathing. but you're just trying to breathe at a different time. So it's really minor adjustments to habits that are already automated. So it's a much lower effort. But because you do it every day, the cumulative effect of those habit hacks and those habit adjustments are really significant, because they help stem the chronic cellular inflammation that's driving all the chronic illnesses, and which ultimately, leads to burnout, as and all of the other chronic diseases. Mm-hmm. It's easier than we've been making out. We don't have to do as much. We need to do less.
Yes, in a world that always wants more.
Exactly.
It's sometimes hard to step back and do less, right?
Yeah. And this stuff doesn't, there's no product wrapped around it. So who's going to, I'm promoting it, but ultimately most of the wellness companies, there's no business model around selling this information because all of this stuff is free. So the wellness companies out there are not going to be pushing these simple approaches because they want you to buy a supplement and have that for the rest of your life, or they want you to spend money on gut testing, or they want you to have a continuous glucose monitor in your arm and then pay for expensive, load of money for an app that you don't need. And it's we are in that world where you really have to be mindful of the marketing.
So, Dr. Julia Jones, those 3 hacks were so useful. And I can attest to the fact that their struggles I see day to day with clients. So much so, I was wondering if I could step into the shoes of one of our clients and you could walk us through what might have gone wrong with their lifestyle choices. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
So, I am Max. I work at a very prestigious law firm. I'm a very successful lawyer. I wake up and don't look out the window. I look at my phone from the moment I wake up because I know I get hundreds of emails overnight. I work with, on average, 3 different time zones. So when I wake up, I know that I have already fallen behind with my work. So that's how I start my day. I do about 10 minutes of emails in bed, then I jump out of bed onto my kitchen table where I eat a very quick breakfast, drink about 3 espressos in the space of 15 minutes, and then sit at my laptop for about 8 to 10 hours. I notice that I hold my breath when I do my emails because I get really, really anxious. And I feel this pressure, this sort of chest pain, anxious and just shoulder tension. And I end up snacking all day long, whatever I can grab, sometimes delivery. And if I'm being completely honest, sometimes I don't leave my flat for 3 days because I have so much work and I work online. Dr. Julia Jones, I'm not feeling very great. I think I'm on the road to burnout. What's wrong with my lifestyle?
Max, you need to buy a dog.
A dog! Oh, Dr. Julia Jones, I love you already.
Honestly, if you have a dog, you have to go outside first thing in the morning. And
love it.
And you have to walk that dog. And there are many other benefits, gut bacteria, everything else that come from a dog. But also, the other thing that I've found with high achievers is that they really love getting into the data. They're very competitive and, much like us, right? And so when they get a wearable, this starts to change things. So the Oura Ring that I use, or an Apple Watch, or that there are a couple of rings now out, I think, but and this is not an advert because I'm not paid by them, but these things really start to get fascinating. And so the first thing that you do is check what happened to your sleep. What score did you get for your sleep? Like, really, what happened? How much deep sleep? How much REM sleep? How many wake ups? What happened to those things? What is my resilience score today? And because, the more fascinated you get in what's going on underneath. Because that's part of the problem, is that you can't see what's going on underneath until it hits a crisis level, right? And then there's some kind of health issue. A lot of the stuff that you don't see it. Whereas when you're wearing a wearable, you see the effect of what you've been doing when you have a late dinner, when you're drinking alcohol late at night, when you're stressed, when you're not breathing properly, all of that. So definitely a wearable as well, I think, helps a lot. And just understanding that, things like breakfasts, that's one of the easiest things that most of my clients can introduce, is to just shorten that eating window. And ideally, you want the eating window to be the other way, so that you're not eating late at night. But most people struggle to do that with client dinners and everything else. And so if that is, then reducing the window by having a later breakfast is something that's much more achievable. I'm thinking about what you're putting in. The decaf coffee now tastes so good that I did several tests a couple of years ago of giving people, decaf coffee. They did not know that was decaf coffee, because it's so high quality now. So it doesn't always have to be, because there is a rate of diminishing returns when it comes to caffeine, as you know. Some caffeine can be very, very effective in terms of focus and alertness, and then after which you get to a point where you're actually getting negative benefits from that. And so a switch to decaf. Many of my clients also think that they're doing a great job by having a pint of orange juice in the morning, because if that's vitamin C, it's like, oh my God, blood glucose tsunami. So you have to, I think the key with everyone is that you have to make it really, really low effort. Otherwise, it's just not achievable for people. And even if they do one, so out of all of the things that you're listing, and they just chose one of those, which might be just the breath work, right? Have cold shower, turn your shower to cold before you get out, so that you're activating the sympathetic nervous system, and do the breathing in the shower, which is like a workout for the autonomic nervous system, because that cold temperature is trying to force your autonomic nervous system into sympathetic. But by your breath, slowing your breath, extending the exhales, you can really train that parasympathetic arm to be dominant. In a shower, I mean, everyone's getting in the shower. These are things that are achievable, rather than trying to fix everything in one go, which ends up, even though individually they're all low effort things, if you're trying to introduce loads of different low effort things, then it's a high effort practice. So it's about choosing which one is most achievable.
And what's your take on the likes of Max, for instance, who are, on the road to burnout, super busy, and their next best bet to lose that stubborn weight is to go on the treadmill for 90 minutes at 9 p.m. and come back even more exhausted and push back their bad time to 1 or 2 a.m. because obviously by the time they've had their dinner, it's now 11:30 p.m. and wondering why 6 weeks of doing that is now allowing them to lose the weight. What's your take on that?
So I've been measuring biological age of a lot of my senior exec clients, and they proudly tell me about their gym routine of going to the gym 3 or 4 evenings a week. They talk me through it, and I say, okay, so what time do you leave the office? And then you got to drive, you travel to the gym, or maybe it's in your office, but it's bright, like it's late evening, and you're in a brightly lit environment with banging loud music, doing high intensity activation, all of which is hyper stimulating the autonomic nervous system into sympathetic mode, releasing stress, cortisol, adrenaline at a time of day when you need to be introducing the parasympathetic nervous system to calm the brain down so that you're more likely to have high quality sleep. And when I'm measuring these people, They have fantastic aerobic capacity. They have great muscle tone, muscle endurance, all the things that you would expect from a fitness and a gym habit. But their biological age is 15 years older than they are, 20 years older than they are. These people in their mid-50s are coming out in their 70s of biological age because they have chronic inflammation at a cellular level, which the gym isn't helping. The weight, as you say, doesn't come off. They would have far more benefit with going home earlier, having a lovely, relaxing evening with the family, having an earlier dinner, and chilling out. The biggest gap that most people that I see have got is that they don't have enough chill time. And it feels as if you're doing nothing when you're just sitting around chilling out. But that's when you're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. Just relaxing, going home, watching high impact, stimulating television. It's all activating the sympathetic nervous system. So we have to start repositioning with Max and all his peers to understand that doing nothing is a workout. It's the equivalent of a workout. You have to do nothing. Slow down your breathing.
What are some of your favorite practices to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, at night after a rather busy day, and especially when one is struggling to switch off from work, so their brain and their mind is still very active?
So I am a big fan of cards. Yeah. We've been playing cards to try and break the habit of Netflix, which is very, that habit can be really easy to drop into, of like dinner on your lap in front of Netflix. And so cards, I found, is very relaxing, playing cards and in silence. Music is another superb tool, because if you're listening to, think about music that relaxes you. So the brain wants to hear the sounds of safety to be able to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. The brain is not going to engage the parasympathetic nervous system if it's hearing and seeing things that are potentially, that are triggering the sympathetic fight or flight response. You have to give it an environment where it feels safe. And sound is, the ears lead to the brain. That's why I use music so much. It's a direct input channel to the brain to slow down brain waves, because our brain waves synchronize to the sounds that we listen to. So choosing, and everyone asks me, what song should I listen to send me to sleep? Well, it depends. Everyone is different. You need to decide the music that you enjoy. So for one person, it might be classical. For someone else, it would be chilled Ibiza, electronic, lo-fi classics. It doesn't really matter. If it's that chilled ambience, preferably with no vocals, so instrumental, because our brain is wired to listen for human voices. So if you've got lyrics in a song, your brain is decoding those lyrics constantly. So simplistic music. I did that, the Music Hacks tracks with Universal Production Music last year. They were on Spotify. Just search for Music Hacks, HACKS, and you'll find them. They help breathwork. So they take, if you synchronize your breathing to the timing of those tracks, then they'll take you to 6 breaths per minute with an extended exhale. So they're a really easy training tool.
Great. I'm a huge fan of classical music at night to relax. It's one of my super tools. And I love what you pointed out about lyrics and vocals, because I'm a huge opera fan, but I've noticed that I can't listen to opera and focus because I get distracted by listening to the lyrics. So I've learned over the years that although it's one of my favorite genres, it's not one that is compatible to focused work or pure relaxation, because my mind is still picking up those lyrics.
Yeah. And it's about reducing the amount of distraction. So often people are using music as kind of an acoustic mask to block out other things, especially in open plan offices and things like that. It was very, very distracting. But the sounds that you put in your ears, you need to just think very carefully. If you're trying to focus, then putting music into your ears that is very busy, lots of stuff going on, human voices, vocals, things like that, you're giving your brain a lot of extra information to work with. So thinking about simplicity, I do guest lectures for INSEAD, their MBA class in Paris. And during COVID, I created a focus runway, which was an acoustic soundscape, but with screens that leading up to before you press play, you have to go through screens where it says, close all unnecessary windows on your laptop, put your phone on silent, turn off notifications, now press play. And then it's got this very simplistic acoustic landscape with some white noise and things like that, and sounds of nature in there as well, but to calm the brain down so that you can just focus on whatever task it is you were doing. And the MBA students used it. It's like 90% of them said that it was helpful for focus for various reasons. So that's actually on my it's on my drjuliajones.com website, that focus runway. Great. If anyone wants to use it, try it.
Make sure to put that in the show notes. Thank you. And I know you've talked about calming the brain, and that's your area of expertise. I was wondering if you could give us an idea of how quickly do we see brain waves changes through the use of music modalities or listening to calming sound?
Oh, it's almost instant. So this is why, it's such a fast acting tool. Same as with breathwork. And if you're combining breathwork and music, and this is another thing that makes music such a super tool, is because it's not just the sounds. Obviously, you're receiving the sound through your ears and all through your skin, because music is vibration, sound vibrations. So the body the brain is receiving those through the skin receptors as well as through the auditory canal and the auditory nerve. So you're getting the brainwave impact because of the entrainment effect that happens with the sounds that are being received. So you can slow brainwaves down that way into whatever state you're trying to achieve, or speed them up as well. You can go in the opposite way and energize through up-tempo music. But then if you also combine and use music as a metronome, so if you pick the right tempo and synchronize your breath to it, like with the Music Hacks tracks, you're also getting the input through the autonomic nervous system through breath. So that mechanical effect that's impacting the vagus nerve and, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So music's a massively overlooked tool, and in elite sport. So I introduced this in the early 90s when I brought what I'd been shown by the Navy SEALs and brought it in with British Olympic squads, showing them, the swimming teams, how to use music. And, no one was really using music properly. Now you see all of the athletes, they're coming in, they're by the side of the pool, they've still got their headphones on, right? Because it is, why would you not use that input channel to the brain? It's so effective. And you see it across a lot of elite sport now, I've worked with Premiership football teams through to the individual sports athletes, and they all see music as a key part of their training. And yet in the corporate world, they're missing out on it enormously, just looking, some places have got office choirs and things like that, but that's just scratching the surface of how to use music to achieve certain mind states and to boost performance and wellness.
I'm so glad you've mentioned it. I'm a huge fan of this tool. In fact, I was caught, if I may use that term, by one of my friends at the TEDx event who saw me backstage with my little headset, closing my eyes. And I was just making sure to slow down my heartbeats and slowing down my breath and leaning into the music. And another type of sound.
It's priming. It's a priming tool.
Yes, absolutely. I was wondering, what is your take on pink and brown noises? Because I really find that they also can be very calming at time where I'm feeling a little extra stressed or extra anxious. I really like those leaves or winds or waves. How do you feel about those?
Yeah. So it's very personal preference as well that some people find. I find the white noise quite harsh, and
not a fan. Yeah.
And so other frequencies work better for different people. And I think, and this is what I always say to people from the genetic aspect as well, in terms of caffeine and the effects of caffeine on sleep. It's very individual, because if I scrolled through this screen 1 billion faces, it's very unlikely that we would see any faces that look exactly like our face. So, we've all got the nose, 2 eyes, the mouth. There are similarities, but all those faces would look different. And the same beneath the surface. We've all got the same organs. We've all got the same basic circuitry. But at a microscopic level, they're so different. How you respond to caffeine will be different to how I respond to caffeine, because of how the sensors that you have that attract the adenosine receptors, will just be different, because it's so sophisticated, it's so complicated. So it's very much an individual thing that I encourage people to understand how the biology works. So learn a bit about the evolutionary circuits, understand what triggers them positively and negatively, and then experiment with different things to see what works for you. Because we are not carbon, we're not blueprints of one another. We're different, aren't we?
Very, very different. Yes.
We're individual. We're unique.
Well, Dr. Julia Jones, I'm really grateful for this conversation. I was wondering if you could maybe leave our audience with one more of your myth bursting, because I know that's one of your speciality. And I was wondering if you could maybe help us burst another myth.
So my TikTok account is shot through the roof at the moment, because I'm shooting down various wellness marketing things. And one of the ones that's everywhere you look at the moment is the use of continuous glucose monitors, because that's going to be the answer to all of your problems, is, seeing how your blood glucose responds to different things that you eat, and then matching it with an app so that you can see exactly what kind of foods you need to eat. And really, the main finding of my research is that anything that involves a lot of effort or ongoing cost, for some people, cost is prohibitive, right? So, but effort is the same with everybody. If it requires ongoing effort, most people drop out. So by doing those kind of approaches and getting all this data and all the different, now I can have spinach, but my wife can't eat spinach, so we've got to cook separate meals now, or my husband can have this, or my kid can have that. And, it's unnecessary. We know what we need to be eating. We need to be eating lots of fruits and vegetables, fish, if you're not vegan and vegetarian, healthy meat, if you're going to do meat, and plenty of water, and moderate alcohol, not excessive alcohol, because many of my clients, it's unrealistic to say zero alcohol. So thinking about how you use alcohol is the key. So going and buying into these marketing trends and the latest fad is not worth it. Learn about your biology and then just make simple, low effort changes that are sustainable for a lifetime.
I'm so glad you brought up the alcohol. And I was wondering if, in your opinion, there is such a thing as a safe dose?
Not according to the science, really. All of the research now is really pointing to the fact that, it's a toxin. We get intoxicated with a toxin. And anything that is repeatedly, put into the body in terms of molecules, it has a potential for damage. And again, it would be individual, because the danger of alcohol for me could be different to danger for you. Just like I could safely carry more fat than someone else could carry more fat. It all comes down to a cellular level. But it's pretty substantial evidence that alcohol is linked to so many chronic diseases and cancers and whatever else. So if you have to drink alcohol, then thinking the type of alcohol that you're drinking. So, could you drink something that is a healthier alcoholic drink? Could you start leaning towards lower alcohol? So, that's the rise of the new types of drinks now, and different types of cocktails, some of which are absolutely loaded with sugar.
I was going to say, yes.
It's so difficult. It really is. But again, trying to keep it away from sleep, because we know, start wearing a wearable, you'll see exactly what your evening alcohol intake does to your sleep, wrecks it. And heart rate variability absolutely plummets to the floor when you have alcohol in the evening. So having alcohol earlier at least tries to protect your sleep, which we know is an absolutely critical pillar when it comes to burnout or any of the chronic diseases that are all killing us.
Yeah, and yet we often use it as a sleeping aid. Really, it becomes
exactly. But that's because it's increasing the release of GABA in the brain, which is the brake. The neurochemical that shuts down, that stops neurons from firing. So what you're doing is gradually shutting down more and more neurons. So you're not having high quality sleep. You're sedating parts of your brain by flooding them with GABA. And so you'll see on the wearable, it's not real sleep.
And that's why you wake up exhausted.
Exactly.
And then to cope again, because you're so tired, you drink some more the following night.
Exactly. It's a vicious circle, that. But, moderation.
Yes, absolutely. On my school nights, as I call them, I really love to make some chamomile and lavender tea. And I find that very calming, very comforting as well.
Yeah.
Really nice alternatives. Or even now, as we're leaning into the spring, I find that some nice sparkling water with slices of fruit is a really great alternative for a non-sugar cocktail option.
Same with me. I mean, these kind of habits, what I do right now is that, I'm an accountability coach for the people that are going through my program. We check in every day. Right. So we do an accountability check-in on WhatsApp every day. It's like, right, the habits, at the beginning, I explain all of this. They choose a habit that they want to try and work on. And then every day we check in on WhatsApp, because things like that, switching, instead of opening a bottle of wine at night to making another drink that is enjoyable but isn't alcoholic, trying to break that habit. It's much easier if you're checking in with somebody, it doesn't have to be me, but a daily check-in is so greatly increases your likelihood of making that a permanent change.
Absolutely. And hence the power of coaching and communities and accountability.
Exactly.
Dr. Julia Jones, what would be your preferred way for our audience to connect to your world?
Well, I am on TikTok and Instagram as at Dr. Julia Jones, Dr. Julia Jones. The Focused Runway is at drjuliajones.com, and all of the other information about my corporate work is at holidity.com.
Excellent. I'll make sure to add all of those into the show notes. I'm so grateful.
And LinkedIn, of course.
Oh, of course. So that everybody can see your wonderful posts. I've very much enjoyed them.
Good.
Great. Thank you so much for this enlightening conversation today. And I look forward to our future collaborations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to working together and see you in person very soon.
Thank you. Now that you've learned about the extraordinary power of breathwork to optimize your personal well-being and boost your professional performance, I have a gift for you. Download your Breathwork ebook by following the show notes so that you can start your personal breathing journey guided by me.